afternoon and welcome back to the first Power Hour of 2026. Yes, we are back to bring you the solid gold tips that you need to make sure that you're getting the very most from your TaxCalc and Engager tools. There's so many features and extras that you can be taking advantage of, but we know that it's easy to fall into the trap of doing the things the same way every time, so you don't get the chance to explore these things. So first off today, we're going to be taking a look at tax and accounts, running through a hand-curated selection of features that are often not fully exploited. Then we're going to be taking a look at the wonder that is Engager. It was only May last year that we announced the acquisition of Engager. And already the integration is fully in place and it's getting deeper every day. So we're going to be sharing a whole lot about how the pricing calculator works, how the email automation works. So lock in for that. To do this, I am joined by none other than Nick, who you probably know if you're a regular, but also Esther. Esther Voss, who is with us for the first time. Esther, tell us a little bit about you.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. So yeah, I'm Esther Voss. I'm part of the professional services team here at TaxCalc. It's my first time hosting a Power Hour, but not my first time attending. Prior to joining TaxCalc 18 months ago, I was in practice myself. I used to watch these on a regular basis and come away with loads of hints and tips to share with the team. So really is a full circle moment this afternoon to be on this side of a Power Hour, which is really exciting, and hopefully I can share lots of hints and tips with everyone today.
Back in the day when we were in black and white, Esther used to run home from school, sit on her mother's knee and tune in to the Power Hour, didn't you? That was your favourite.
Something like that. Yeah.
Between that and Jack and Rory. Thank you for joining us, Esther. It's a pleasure to have you here. And for regulars, you might notice that we're not in the studio as usual, but we are being revamped and redesigned and rebuilt. And for the next couple of months, we're going to be nomadic, but we will be back in the studio and normal service will be resumed. So just a quick bit of housekeeping. Yes, we will be sending out a recording of this, so you'll receive that as soon as the show ends. You'll receive an email. There are a number of icons in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. Chat, some of you have found already, is for everyone to chat. Everyone will see what you've written in there, and everyone will be able to respond to that. If you've got a particular question that you really want us to answer, put it in the questions tab. Only we will see that, but it means that we're more likely to see it because sometimes the chat gets a little bit crazy. And I'm going to release the polls. I'll put a little red dot in the poll section when there's a poll live, and we'd love you to take part in that as well. So without further ado, we're getting started. I'm going to launch with our first poll. And then we will be having a quiz. Let's not forget. Guys, go for it. We've got prizes modeled by Esther and Nick. There they are. You get to choose pink or black. So yeah, Sarah Solo, you've got enough of our kit. Sarah is fully decked out and only owns TaxCalc branded clothes now. Good to see you, Sarah. Thank you for coming. Okay, so first poll, I want to know, this is going to be a tough one, but whether in your practice, do you use TaxCalc Engager, both or neither? I'm going to publish that, put a little red dot in the poll box. If you hit that, love to see. Just want to get an idea of who's using what, really, just so we can gauge how we're going to run the session. So let us know. And we've got mainly TaxCalc, quite a few TaxCalc and Engager, and there are some people that use neither TaxCalc or Engager. So welcome here. Hopefully you can find out a little bit. And please do, in the chat or in the questions, if you've got any questions about what TaxCalc or Engager can do for you, please ask. No questions too dumb, or some questions are too dumb, but no question is too dumb, and we'd love to hear. We'll be able to answer anything that you throw at us. Fingers crossed. So, Nick, do you want to hit it? Because we're going to first of all look at some TaxCalc hidden treasures.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that we've been doing these power, and I think we're going to take it back to its prime roots of what the Power Hour was when we first started. Because I think there was a few things we're kind of veering off, and one of the things that people always want to know about is a few more of the key features within the tax product itself. So if I just share my screen, it's going to come through to you all any minute now. I'm going to take you through some areas of the personal tax product. So if I go into tax return production and click launch at the top, I've got a list of all of my clients in my database. If I go and open up an individual called Adam Alpha, I've got my tax return periods. And if I open up the top one there, 5th of April 2025, I've got my personal tax return system. And I expect that 99% of our users who are using TaxCalc will effectively run down the left-hand side using our simple step method, where it kind of guides you through the entire tax return, asks you what you want to go and fill in. I expect there's a wide proportion of our existing users that very, very rarely ever click a button in the top left-hand corner there called Switch to HMRC form. Useful function for a variety of reasons. It's not my preferred main data entry method, but I think it's useful for a couple of reasons. If I click that, what that will actually do is show me my actual tax return on screen. I can go and fill in the tax return directly on the face of it. I can see Sarah there saying she uses HMRC forms all the time. It's good to know. There's a few members internally at TaxCalc who actually fill in their own tax return and submit it using this method. I think it's really useful when you've sent a tax return out to your client, and they're always terrible at explaining what issues they've got with it, if they've got any queries about it. So I think what's really helpful is to just say, look, what is the figure that you're struggling with, and what page is it of the tax return, and what box number is it? So if they say, oh, it's on the 3rd page, like I'm on here, and it's to do with this £980, they could say it's page 3, box 13. If you click in that box and click switch to simple step this time in the top left-hand corner, that will take you to where you have filled it out in your other method. So it's kind of nice way of flicking between the two different ways of filling in a tax return, and that is available to be used in SA100s for your individuals, also in your partnership tax returns, and also in your CT600. So a nice bit of navigation between the two data entry methods within TaxCalc. Anyone who was previously a user of a piece of software called PTP or is looking for an alternative provider, HMRC Forms might be really beneficial to you, because I appreciate that's the only method in that software that is being sunsetted. Another area of the TaxCalc software which people really like, and it kind of depends on if you require this functionality. Now, this is an add-on if you do want it, but again, the feedback is great from people who do use it. And it's our FTSE 350 and AIM list of dividends in our dividend database. So effectively running down the left-hand side in our other income section and savings and investments and shares and unit trusts, where your dividend section will be, there is the option by clicking the little magic wand on the right-hand side to use for dividend database. Like I said, this bit is an optional extra. Rather than having to go and find any dividends which were paid on, say, a Bloomberg or Hargreaves Lansdowne, you could go to dividend database, and this is where it has that list of the FTSE 350 and AIM list of companies. You find which one you are, which your client owns shares in. I could search for, say, Shell, if they own shares in Shell. Select it. These are the dividend amounts which were paid during the year based per share. And if your client has 1,000 shares of Shell, they're the dividends which would have been paid. Maybe I should probably buy some shares in Shell if that's the dividends they're paying. Click auto post and it would allocate those dividends to my client record. It also maintains that 1,000 shareholding of Shell. So when I roll forward for next year, all I need to do is click the refresh button and it will then pull through the correct dividends amount for 1,000 shares. So really, really useful, in particular if your clients do hold shares across those. So I appreciate there'll be plenty of people on the call today who may not need that feature, and that's absolutely fine. That's why we've made it an optional extra rather than kind of a just part of the standard suite that then everyone pays for even if you don't need it. We put it as a little bolt on. But yeah, a lot of people aren't aware that that's a little bit of functionality that the system can have. Okay.
And you can add that on. Just simply go into your account and you can add that on online, where you can speak to one of our wonderful salespeople as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Kay has just asked, and to be clear, I'm pretty sure Ash will be able to just check for me, but I'm pretty sure it is £70 plus that extra for that particular add-on if you want it. And it might be the case that you might want to add it on in April onwards. So yeah, as Andy says, you can just go onto your account and add it into your basket and add it to your running subscription. The next area is, again, something. This next bit is not an add-on. It's just something that's included in the system. But potentially people would have liked to have known this in January, and I did a couple of videos on it and put it on various different socials to keep on top of it. So if you do want to keep on top of certain things, it might be worthwhile adding myself, Andy, and Esther on LinkedIn as well. We do post some useful hints and tips about TaxCalc from time to time, so it's worthwhile doing that. But it's the ability to actually send your tax return to our support team directly at the point of logging a support call, because we appreciate that from time to time you are struggling to find a particular section to go and fill in. I was talking to a practice in the middle of January that was struggling to fill in some it was foreign interest on foreign interest income. It was struggling for the correct box. So the support team, as good as they are, it is helpful to have that information at the point of logging the call. So if you're within a tax return, and if you go to the help section at the top, there's the option to send return to TaxCalc. So by clicking that button, it will give you the standard support form to fill in. But we can see down here, it's actually going to send a copy of the return, particularly as anonymous. So any identifying information, whether that be employers or sole trades, or obviously the client's name and bank details, they'll all be X'd out. So we have no idea who the individual is or what they're related to, but we can see all the relevant tax information in the relevant boxes. Really helpful that when you're submitting a support ticket to our team, that we can then see that at the point of receiving the support ticket itself, rather than having to then either call you back or ask for any more information. We can see what your problem is and then get back to you with the exact solution of how to do it, rather than having to ask you for any more information. So yeah, really nice. And that's part of it. We see there Kay has used it in the past. That's brilliant that you know it's there. It's very rare that people do know that is there in there. So and I've got one final bit to show you in the tax return, and I'm sure avid watchers of the Power Hour will probably be well aware of this particular part of the tax system. But it's probably my favourite part of the personal tax system, and it is the What If Planner, a really, really useful part of the system, particularly around now, to be speaking to your clients who are interested in making sure they have the correct information on their tax return that's going to be completed by the end of 5th of April, to make sure they've made use of allowances, they've put the correct amount in their pension. So what we have right at the bottom of the list is the What If Planner on the left-hand side. Again, similar to Dividend Database, this is an add-on. But with the What If Planner, what that allows you to do is do a projected calculation for the 25-26 tax period using the 25-26 tax rates. Now, what is really helpful is by clicking this button here that says use 24-25 values, that will pull through the information from the tax return that we've just filled in here. For example, my dividends from UK companies there, 1079, was my income from my Shell dividends that I've just filled in. So it immediately gives me a starting point to say, this is what was in last year's tax return. What if nothing was to change whatsoever? This is what would be the effective projected SA302 for my clients. But very easily, I'm able to click these add or edit buttons to go and change some information. For example, we can see that total income is 116,233, hence I've got a reduced personal allowance. Now I would expect many people on the call today to be screaming at me going, put £16,500 into Adam's pension, right? So we can get him his full personal allowance back if he's got the facilities to do so. So if I can click add edit source, I have the ability in here to change any income information, but with add edit any deductions, I can go to pensions paid gross without tax relief and put in 16,500 in there. That will then give back the full personal allowance to 12,570. Equally, if there were any changes to his income, you could click add edit source here and go and change in any of those information, change the round figures. Really, really helpful rather than having to go and fill in the entire backing information on a full tax return. Beneath that, you can then extend the basic rate band, edit any tax deductions and relief, and student postgraduate loan repayments. I'm sure we've all seen what's going on in the news this week with Martin Lewis and the student loan repayments. Being able to forward plan that for your clients, maybe change of income, really, really helpful. Fiona, I can see that you're asking how much the add-on is. It's not quite as simple as the dividend database. If you go onto the TaxCalc website and log into your account and head to the tax return production section, it will give you the relevant price for the What If Planner. to be able to see that. It does differ based on how many clients you have in the system, but I believe it starts at, I think, £78 for this function. And you can see the most important part is right at the bottom. It gives you your estimated payments on account if all that was in there. Okay, so it's really, really useful, helpful document to then be able to produce and give to your client as part of a tax advisor or planning document for the end of this tax year. Yeah, really, really helpful part. So if you're not using this, I think it's particularly useful at this point of the year to be able to make sure that your clients are utilising the best of their say tax allowances up until the 5th of April. Okay, so yeah, that's 4 nice little helpful bits of the tax system. I think it's quite helpful. Before I hand over to Esther, who's going to show some really helpful things in accounts production.
Just before you do that, I do think it's interesting. We had Johan on at the last Power Hour, and he was basically saying how effectively you can add on a whole revenue generating service just by providing just that what if planner report at the end of your tax return, and you can charge however much you feel you can charge, and a really, really simple way of increasing your each client value. So well worth looking at. Thanks for that, Nick.
Just to go any further, Diane's just mentioned about the self-assessment tax return add-on in terms of that particular product goes up in bandings. There are certain bandings, I think, Diane, that do include partnership tax returns, depending on what banding you choose. But what I would do is I'd have a conversation with our sales team, because we can add on different bandings to include partnership tax returns as well. So it might be worthwhile just speaking to us to make sure that you're aware of all the options that you have available to you. Sorry, just jump in there. Sorry, Esther.
No problem at all. Andy, were you about to say something, or were you?
Well, I just said, Martin said, how much do you charge clients for the service? Does that mean how much you would charge your clients for the service? That's entirely up to you. I think Johan was talking about 30, 40 quid each per client just for sending out that report.
Yeah, and I think when he had that conversation with myself, it was using it in its most simplest format before doing any of the add or edit sources. Yeah. It was really powerful before you've even clicked any buttons, and it was then a conversation starter with your client base to say, oh, if you want some other scenarios being run through this, we can absolutely facilitate that and help you. So it's a really great tool that we find a lot of practices do get a lot of benefit from.
Excellent. So Esther, you're going to talk through some accounts gold.
Yes, absolutely. Right, let me share the screen and we will dive into accounts production. Give me 1 second. Lovely. Everyone see that all right, hopefully? Lovely. So we're going to dive into accounts production for this part of the session. So just click into Bravo Limited and we'll open his most recent accounting period. Second just to load. I don't know what's taking its time. So I want to sort of mention a bit around about posting, editing notes, and also the integration between tax return production and accounts production, just to make sure people are aware of that integration that we can benefit from to make life easier, streamline the process for everybody utilising the software. So start off in postings. People have got plenty of opportunities or options, with regards to how they enter those trial balances. We've obviously got the new batch, which is the manual route, but through the import trial balance tab, we've got a couple of other options. And whilst a lot of people are familiar with the import via CSV file, what people are less familiar with is the import via third party, and that's the integration between Free Agent, QuickBooks, and Xero. I'm unable to show you the end result, but that is the list to choose from. Whichever one you select then points you towards that software, asks you to log into QuickBooks, Free Agent, or Xero, and that integration is then enabled, and you can pull in that trial balance from your bookkeeping software directly. In addition to it being that sync from your bookkeeping software into TaxCalc itself, you can also benefit from a two-way sync. So we can push adjustments and journals back into QuickBooks, Free Agent, and Xero from here as well. Let me just open a better tax year where I've actually got some examples in. I know Andy likes the cog, so I'm just highlighting the cog in the top right hand corner. So let me just open a version. changed my demo database the other day, so just bear with me a second. This one should look more familiar. Perfect. I've got some postings in here. So we've used the import trial balance to import. I've got this corporation tax journal that I want to post back into my bookkeeping software. Now that I've got that batch selected, we can see that this export journal button is enabled, and that will now allow me to push those tax journals adjustments back into that bookkeeping software. So it's not just the one-way sync, there is that two-way sync that we can make the most of with regards to that two-way bookkeeping integration. The other thing I wanted to highlight next was the ability to edit notes and the ease of doing so within the software. Quite often, the process is to go down the left-hand menu bar. We come through account setup, postings, end up in notes, edit notes, and we're all familiar with our edit notes screen. We then get to the part of review potentially. And rather than having to come back to this edit notes screen, we are able to edit notes on the face of the full financial statements. So if I come into reports, click on full financial statements, wait for that to load. We can see, if I scroll down, click a bit further, let's get to nice variety of text. I can click this button over in the top left-hand corner, switch to edit mode, and I can make amends to both the text and also drill down into some of the figures from this view here without having to search back through the notes, find the relevant screens. I've spotted an error in that review process, toggle to edit mode, and I can make those amends in here directly. So if I want to add test wording, for example, test, save and close, we can see that that's going to automatically refresh and update with that revised wording that I've added in.
And that's immediate, isn't it? Because the number of people that have complained about other tools where that takes a full 15 minutes to rerun the whole report just with a tiny change. So
yeah, no, that is as instant as you saw just then, and that would be real time how it would work in your systems as well. You can.
Sorry, Esther, Kay's asking, can you add additional notes as well as editing existing notes?
You could add a paragraph of text in, that would be absolutely fine, and it would do all the reformatting, the page numbering would correct itself. You wouldn't have to do that. So yeah, you can add as much or as little extra text, only where you can hover over and it turns pink. That's the areas that you can revise. You would go back to the note section if you wanted to add in an additional page to the additional information screen.
Kate, on that, Kate, another question actually about inserting extra tables. Be able to show the ability to add an additional table as well, because I think that's one of my favourite parts of it as well.
Yeah, so that would be separate from this view. We would have to go back to the main edit notes section. We have got a nice little shortcut, so anywhere that we hover over a pink box and we see this paragraph icon, we can click into that icon and it takes us back to the edit notes view that we are more familiar with potentially. If I take you to my turnover screen, we can see that here we have got a table that I've added into this example. To get that into the system, I've simply clicked on this table icon along the formatting bar, and I can add a standard table or a custom table. This is a standard table, and when I toggle to preview mode, we can see that it's nicely laid out and the formatting is all neat and accurate. We're not having to worry about it falling out off a page or the alignment being wonky or anything like that. It's all nice and tidy. And again, if you were to add 5 new paragraphs to this specific note, we would do all the pagination and formatting for you. There wouldn't be that sort of headache of having to reformat the entire full financial statements. We do that for you. Another just thing whilst we're in there, sorry, if there's a note that you want to include but it's not appearing within the full financial statements, you come back into this view here, the top right hand corner, you've got this option here, include this note, yes or no, and that allows you to then say, no, please do include this note. I want it to form part of my financial statements. So if it's not showing, check back through your notes screen here, and you can always toggle those pages on and off, so you've got the desired pages included within those full financial statements. Lovely. So
we just want, before you go on, Kay trying to break you, and will it be available in the charity accounts? Says Kay. The note update. I presume the note
I'm
update.
not sure whether it's available yet.
So it would be available in the charities add-on, but that a table adding functionality is only available if you have our full FRS 102 add-on. So if the full FRS 102 add-on is there, you would be able to do it in the charity accounts as well, but that is the determining factor effectively.
Cool. Lovely.
And very quickly, Gary, just wanted to ask, I think Nick's answered, but for the benefit of everybody else, importing and inserting Word document into the accounts as well. Is that doable?
Yeah, so how I answered, sorry, I'll pick up that one, Esther, because I answered Gary already, sorry. Yeah, I said it's really helpful when inserting text for things like audit reports, where they'll send you information, or a charity, the charities will send you information for their trustees report. Being able to just copy and paste that into the correct boxes of the notes section, yeah, it's absolutely possible and really helpful. Yeah, so yeah, thanks, Guy, for raising that. I always forget to reference that.
And Kay, keep them coming. You've not quite broken Esther yet, so
that's fine.
Push her over the edge.
Lovely, thanks, Andy. So that was, we were talking about text amends really on that bit. But if I just scroll back up, we can see that some of my figures are also highlighted with a nice pink box around them. If they are highlighted, it means I can drill down into the detail of those figures as well. So I want to know what this is made up of. I can drill back down into the normal ledger and get back to that original posting batch directly on the face of the accounts. We're not having to go back to the start. We can do things on the fly once we're in that review stage or whatever it may be. Lovely. And then again, if you switch back to preview mode, it saves down those the latest version of that document with those changes you've made, and away you go with them. So if we were to scroll back down, we'd see that test wording that I'd entered, and those changes would be reflected once I was back in edit mode. The final part of accounts production I wanted to show was the sort of integration between the accounts production module and tax return production module. Whilst we're in this view here, to get me into tax return production, we will use this version of integration, and that's the ability to be able to attach our accounts to the tax return directly from this screen. So if I hit attach tax return, I'm going to ignore my errors. I wouldn't, obviously. And I'm going to open my 24-25 tax return, so attach to return, and that's fine. I do wish to continue, despite there being one already. And then successfully attached, and from here I can now go ahead and open that return. So nice little feature. We've got tax and accounts open across two tabs, directly from accounts straight into tax return production, and we can see that I've now added my accounts to the tax return. Integration from tax into accounts works when we come into check and finish and our post tax journal option. This is allowing us to post our journal directly back into accounts, which we saw at the beginning of my section, where I was then able to post that tax journal back into my bookkeeping software. So we've gone from pulling this information in from our bookkeeping software, doing our work within accounts production, pushing that into tax return production, and then pushing that final tax journal back into accounts, and that can then be pushed full circle back into our bookkeeping software as well. So simply post journal, select which period it is, and then we'd hit the post button and we'd see it within that posting screen like we saw before here. So yeah, that is
awesome. Thank you so much, Esther, for that comprehensive rundown. It's so good to see. I get so many comments from our customers who just find that the accounts production is just so intuitive and easy and quick. And one of the big things is my team are just less frustrated now. And I've heard that probably those exact words 3 times this week. So and thanks for doing that. Guys in the chat, anyone watching, we are really keen. We only know we want to be able to help you out, but we don't know what you don't know. So if there are any questions that you have, frustrations that you think, I've really never explored that, or there's something in the menu that you don't know what it does, please ask us and we'll cover that in the next Power Hour. And equally, if you've discovered something in one of the menus or one of the features that we haven't ever covered, please send that to us, because we would love to share that out. And I'm thinking about running a prize competition for the best one, but bear with me on that. Very quick, speaking of prizes, it's time for a very quick quiz, because we always have a quiz. Now, this is where the chat goes mad, because we have as yet refused to come up with a more comprehensive solution for judging the quiz. So the first correct answer to the quiz wins a hat. So I'm going to ask a question. Over January, so just in January, our support team receives both email tickets and phone calls. If you add those up, how many combined support emails and calls were made in January to our support team? Go in the chat. Closest winner, first one wins. I
think you love this, Andy.
Now this is where it all goes wrong. So we've got everything from 100. I think 100 million was up there at one point, which would be good.
We've got 777 from Kay. I think the support team probably wished that was the number.
195,000. I am going to call it, and I'm going to call Martin Crean, who bid at 18,264. The actual answer was 12,861. But I didn't. Oh no, hang on. No, that was 127,000.
I think we go Michael Reed with 12,000. I think that's pretty close, Andy.
Oh, where's Michael? I miss Michael. If only we ever came up with a better solution for this quiz. It would be interesting, but we're refusing to do that. Oh yeah, Michael Reed, 12,000. Congratulations, Michael. You have won the prize. If you could go into the question section and just give us your choice of black or pink, we will be glad to send you, and just let us know where you'd like us to send it as well, and we will send you a hat as soon as humanly possible. And we'd like to see you wearing it when we see you at either Fab or Accountex or whichever event we're going to see you in. Thanks for taking part in that, everybody. Okay. We've got various answers. Melissa, I do apologise, but it's the first one we see. Let's go with Engager now. So there's been a lot of development with Engager over the past 9 months or so since we made our announcement. Nick, do you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me get.
You're going to look at the pricing calculator.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we go. I just need to log into Engager before I can share my screen. There we go. So let me share my screen. It's a bit fiddly on this, isn't it, Esther? I think you're having the same problem as me. There we go. So Engager is going to come through here. So the pricing calculator in Engager, I think, is really one of the defining features of why the product is so useful. Myself and Esther, working in the training team at TaxCalc, find that so many practices struggle with where they should price their services, all the different factors that come to define how they should price it. But then how can they be consistent across the firm, whether they're an individual running the firm by themselves and making sure that they're being consistent on their client base, but equally in a much, much larger firm where they might have other staff members who are responsible for putting together a quote that is then consistent with the practice guidelines. So if I go and open up a client such as Alpha Limited here in Engager, one of the steps in terms of onboarding a client, step forward, my services and pricing. And within Engager, effectively, it comes with a whole host of services that you can then go and add and add to that list and add the relevant services to that particular client. And when you do that, it will ask you a variety of questions. And these questions that I've got on screen here are the ones that Engager comes with as default, but you are able to add whatever questions you like and whatever answers that are within those answers, and the relevant pricing factors that determine the overall cost of the service once they've been selected. For example, we can see here that Alpha Limited is part of the music trade. I've got annual revenue of up to 7 million. My record type is free agent. It looks like their record quality is quite poor, and they want their turnaround time in 3 months. What that then does is it gives a suggested fee of those answers for that piece of limited company accounts as £1,980. Now, if I were to go and change that from, say, free agent to 0, it will increase it to £2,722.50. That seems quite a large jump, but it looks like in my example pricing calculator here, it's as if free agent is my practice's preferred method of pricing, of offering to clients. I prefer using free agent in this example, hence why the suggested fee has come out lower. You might be a firm that prefers QuickBooks or Xero, so you might have a slightly lower fee for those for the particular clients. With that beneath it, there is a little explainer that when you click on it, it explains how it's come to that £2,722.50 figure. I've got a base fee of £500. Your base fee can be whatever you would like it to be. I've got annual revenue up to 7 million, includes a 4.5 multiplier. Record type of 0 is 1.1. Turnaround time in 3 months is 1. That's my expectation at this firm. Whether that's the expectation in reality, you'll be able to know that in firm yourselves. Trade music is 1, but record quality poor has a 10% multiplier. It's times it by 1.1. If I was to go back and change that to free agent, you'll see I've got a multiplier of 0.8. I've said that I am giving effectively a 20% discount on my calculations if they're on free agent. So the idea is that by using this, it will give yourself a greater consistency across your client base, that everything's being priced correctly. If you've got other staff members that maybe go through this onboarding process for you, they're going to follow a consistent pricing method, but you determine exactly what the options are and what the answers to those options will be, and what the relevant knock-on effects of the price will be. Now, I've seen some pretty strange ones. I'm a Bolton Wanderers fan, and I saw a practice that had, if they're a Manchester United fan, it will double the fee, for example. I'm not saying you would actually go and do that, but that firm did have a multiplier that was quite interesting. But you can absolutely define your pricing however you want. This is quite an interesting one because it's doing multipliers. If I was to go to a different client and go to an individual such as Adam Alpha here that I showed you earlier, we can see that for self-assessment, there's lots and lots of questions here, such as is there employment section, is there student loan, is there dividends, is there interest received? And with that, all that is effectively doing is got a base fee of £250, but it's adding just £5 onto the relevant quote, depending on how many of the separate sections are filled in. So effectively, the system is allowing you to quote correctly based on what is within that tax return, depending on the complexity of it. That's quite a simple one, because it's just adding £5 for each one. There may be some much more complicated ones, like the bookkeeping one that will base itself on how many transactions you do, what software they use, what's the frequency of the bookkeeping. There's an entire methodology built in that. But I think these two are the prime example that show what people would tend to use on a day-to-day basis. For pricing is really useful. So I think it's an incredibly useful factor within Engager to allow you to be pricing things consistently across the firm, whether that's purely from an onboarding perspective, or once you've been working them for a number of years, making sure that you are pricing it correctly 3, 4, 5 years down the line. Because I'm in many different Facebook and WhatsApp groups for accountants, and a lot of the time it's I don't know if I'm pricing correctly, and having to ask for opinions from other people in the group, which is totally understandable. This will allow you to be more consistent across the board. Okay, so yeah, the pricing factor is something which for me I think is a huge differentiator of the Engager product, particularly compared to other practice management systems that are out there. Have you any questions?
Just to add to that, Nick, sorry. When I was in practice, this was part of my responsibility, making sure everybody's engagement letters and the pricing quotations were done fairly. We had a nice spreadsheet, lots of formulas, worked just fine, but had we had it in a system like Engager, it would have just saved me hours of time, saving it down, making sure you've got the right person, you make sure you've zeroed out the right fields in that Excel spreadsheet. So having that tool where it's just a yes, no, or you select what the answer is specific to that client, just would have made all the difference, most definitely.
Spot on. Yeah, absolutely, Esther. Yeah, totally agree with all that. You know, for everyone on the call, I actually trained Esther when she was in practice on TaxCalc in terms of a TaxCalc user before. So yeah, it's definitely full circle for Esther being on the power hours you mentioned earlier. But yeah, absolutely, that pricing calculator makes a huge difference. Now, continuing with the Engager theme, Esther, you know, I think one of the things that you really like about it is the job tracking system in terms of with the Kanban boards. But I think there's a really useful part within it in terms of the phases that you can set up. So I don't know, Esther, if it's worthwhile just jumping in and showing how the phases work within the Engager jobs as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just share my screen. So just let that load. Lovely. So switch over to mine. So if I just head to my jobs board, so we can have a look at all my work, we can see my Kanban style jobs board, and we can see the phases within a specific service. We can decide. This is the end user. So when we've got it in place, this is what it looks like from a team member perspective. We've got a series of phases here that we need to complete in order to complete that accounts process. That VAT return process in this example. I always go to limited company accounts. So I don't know why I clicked on that. What we're saying here, each of these phases are designated to one of my team members specifically, and once, in this example, Nick has completed the record request, it would then land on my task list, my jobs board, to mark that the records have been received when they do come in from the client. What you can do, which is quite nice in Engager, is if I just take you to settings and we have a look at one of the services. Just bear with me a second, get to the right place. I will go into company accounts. This is how we set up the service, and down towards the bottom of that edit service pop-up, we've got the phases that we can add in here. You can default who that person is responsible for that part of the phase across the practice, but you can also amend who is responsible for that given service against a specific client. So there is that flexibility with regards to those phases. I was down for showing automation, so I will also show the automated message side of Engager, where I think it can be really, really powerful. We can have automated messages that are triggered based on usual year-end date statutory deadlines that we work back from, and we've got those global auto reminders. That's what we reference to them as in Engager. But taking that a step further, and on the topic of phases, is the ability to trigger an email communication based on completing a specific phase. So if I just scroll down to one I made earlier, we might have an automated email generated when I complete my record collection phase. And that's going to automate an email to confirm and acknowledge receipt of those records. We're all guilty of clients sending their documents in, going in the cupboard or ending up on someone's desk, and then somebody following up a couple of weeks later saying, oh, just wondered, have you got my, did you get my records, or whereabouts is my tax return up to, is it in process, whatever it may be. So being able to just fire out that progress communication, a bit like when we order something off Amazon, we get those continuous updates as to whether it's been dispatched, whether it's shipped, whether it's out with DPD, whatever it may be. That consistent touch point with our customers, I think, is really valuable, and the ability to do that within Engager, you can really flex and personalize that communication that you have with clients and add that extra value to those communications. So that's adding them into phases. Alternatively, if we just take you back a step to our services screen, you do have the option to have global auto reminders, and this is where I was saying it was based on a series of events. So a day after our usual year end, send that initial information request, follow up that every month for the next 3 months or until the records are marked as received. So there is lots of flexibility with regards to the communication aspect in Engager. And yeah, global auto reminders and the reminders built into phases, my top favourite ones. But I just think you can give that extra touch point with those customers. Anything anybody wants to add to that, Andy or Nick, specifically? Or
no, I think that's amazing. There's a question that's come in from Jazz, which is, I'm not actually sure. It's a very good question, actually, saying that currently we assign a team to a client's account/return when we've received the records. TaxCalc allowed us to have the job as unassigned, as we know, Esther, and reverted back to unassigned when the job was completed. Can Engager revert back to the default? I'm not sure.
It'd be one that I would need to go and have a look at. I'm not sure of the answer, unfortunately. Good question, though. Great question. One Nick and I will go and ask.
Here's another one. So Fiona is saying that this. She said this right at the beginning. She got in very early with this question, so we can't ignore it. She said she's having issues reading colleagues' emails in the communication centre. I'm presuming there's the setting that it's read own emails or be able to see Teams emails. Is there in there?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've seen that as a post on the Engager Facebook group, Fiona. It might have even been posted by Sarah, to be honest. I'm not sure. I don't know. I saw the question and I didn't take in the answer. Sounds terrible, but I can't remember.
It sounds like a technical issue with regards to that, because what we're referencing is the ability that against a client, and now I've got to choose the correct client. It's a test. I think we did it against Adam Alpha and communication. It's this here that you'd be able to see the inbound and outbound emails against a given client. And I think the problem Jazz has got is that she's not got visibility of this. So I think that's actually a more technical, maybe a support query that would be best sent Engager's way from a support technical perspective, because it sounds like you've got it set up, but you just can't see what you were either anticipating seeing or what you could see has disappeared. But for context to everybody else on the session, this is what I believe Jazz is referencing. If not, let us know and we have another go at answering that question. Whilst sorry, do we to carry on?
Are you moving on from email?
Yep, that was where I was heading.
One quick one, Larry, just so you able to create specific checklists for each client. We have a general audit. Oh no, sorry, that's an accounts checklist. That's an accounts question. I thought that was
it's in Engager, Andy. Yeah, it's in Engager. So the checklist function is a global one.
Sorry.
Yeah. So it's the questions relating to Engager. And the checklists are basically an all or nothing function. Yeah, where you can create a checklist for a particular one, as Esther's showing here. You can't change them on a client by client record, though. Just trying to think of something you can do in terms of adding a note on that. Or is it on the tailored checklists section within a client, Esther? You just head to a client and then you've got tailored checklists on the left-hand side.
Yeah, so you should be able to, you can personalize the checklists for a given client. So if somebody's got an extra step in their process that must not be forgotten, maybe, I don't know, can't remember off the top of my head, but you do have the functionality to tailor those. Checklists are a really great addition to a jobs card. You've got your jobs card, that's showing you your process. Your checklist is, have we done X, Y, and Z in order to complete that job? And you turn in that into a two-part process. You've got your process and your how-to through your checklist that you're achieving through that element, which I think is really, really useful so that nothing gets missed and we can trust and delegate the jobs amongst our team members. My final thing before I pass back the last thing I just wanted to demonstrate was, whilst we're in a client record in Engager, is this documents aspect at the bottom of my left-hand menu bar. This is the client portal behind the scenes function with Engager, where you're able to share documents between the firm and the client themselves. They can upload documents, you can upload documents, and you can gain electronic approval of those documents through that portal. So you simply head to the files section of that client's client record, and in here you can then add additional folders and post and upload documents into those files for them to review. Yeah, that was my last little bit that I wanted to share from an Engager links and tips perspective.
Thank you, Esther. There's one very quick question. It should be a very quick answer. It's come from Carol. Are you able to generate engagement letters here easily?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
I mean, if it's product called Engager, my guess is it's a yes.
Yes,
just on that, before Esther just shows the engagement letters creation screen very briefly, I want everyone to mark out of 10 what they think of Esther's design of the engagement letter. It's Esther's favorite.
It's already been changed now.
Okay, numbers in the chat, please. Out of 10.
So you would create your client record. You would enter all the information on the relevant screens throughout the sequence of setting up that client, and then once that client is in your practice management list, be able to come into the client record, and over on the left hand side, I can't see it now. Let me go
You've been
back.
given a 1 already, Esther. So
No, I can't get there. That's why. So here, I have got underneath documents where I was proposals, letter engagements, and letters of disengagement. And if I hit this create new, got the option to send a proposal with an engagement letter or just a letter of engagement. Hit create, and based on what we've entered against that client, it's going to generate my engagement letter. If I now click view, here's one I made earlier. So I've gone for the pink vibe in all of my demo accounts. But as you can see here, that's pulled all the information in from my letter of engagement. I can personalize that branding completely to my practice. I can use the pre-existing templates, or I can also duplicate those documents and put my own letters of my own content into those letters of engagement as well. So yes, it is very simple and straightforward to do within Engager.
You're doing very well. I think you've got an average, although you've got a couple of ones there, but they did come in before you shared the letter of engagement. So I think you can claim at least a 9.9 on that. So well done.
I'll take that.
Now, question here from Lizzie about how does Engager compare to Bright Manager? It's better. But please, the chat, answer that question for Lizzie. If you've used Bright Manager, do you think it's better? Do you think it's maybe not quite as good as Engager? Please do answer Lizzie's question, because it's something I'm sure you're more than capable of. We are running rapidly out of time, but we did have a question earlier that I wanted to address, which was from Sarah, who was asking us about when TaxCalc was moving to the cloud. Which we've had a number of times over the years. We did make an announcement in November about TaxCalc's journey. So we were very certain that we wanted to move to a full browser-based solution, but what we didn't want to do is cause disruption by forcing everyone to switch off an old system and move to a new one. It was really important to us, that continuity that is sometimes destroyed when people move from a desktop platform to a cloud platform, was very important to us. So obviously the normal standard cloud TaxCalc has a cloud database with Cloud Connect, so you've got all the benefits of mobility and security, and you can access it anywhere. But from a browser version point of view, we will be moving to a dual access solution. So your TaxCalc will remain on the desktop. You can still use it there. You can still use the Cloud Connect database. But if you have the Cloud Connect database, you will be able to access all of that through a browser as well. So very much in this way that you might use Microsoft Word, for example, where you can seamlessly switch between a browser-based version and a desktop-based version. That's going to be absolutely what we're going to be offering with TaxCalc, and that will be coming up later this year. I think I'm comfortable saying that without Pauline shooting me, but if you do see a red dot on my head, that will be Pauline's sniper rifle. So very, very excited about that, because it means that we will have a full cloud browser solution, a desktop solution, and no migration. You will not notice any difference to your existing solution. You will just have more ways of getting to it. Yay, says everybody. Okay, so we have 5 minutes left. Do we want to take questions, or do we want to look at some of the things that are going to be coming up with the integration? What do you think?
I think I would say if Esther can just very briefly show one of the integrations which has already gone live, I think, between TaxCalc and Engager, because we talked about this at our Fusion event and did a few social media posts about it. But I think it's good to show that what we've said coming has already arrived, right? So I think particularly from the one that Esther's going to show now, it's just nice for people to be aware of that integration is that we said was coming is now here. Just on mute. There you go.
On mute. It's bound to happen at some point. So yeah, what I want to show quickly is the reference to service blockers that were announced at the Fusion event, and this is the integration between the two softwares, Engager and TaxCalc, working together to ensure that jobs are marked as completed correctly and can only be marked as completed when they have actually been filed and accepted from the Tax HMRC through the TaxCalc application. So in services, it's quite hidden. It has been released, so it's very easy to have missed it. But if I just open my limited company accounts service in Engager, we have this new field here, which is, where's it gone? Do I need, here we go, TaxCalc work item type. So you are able to select whether it's year-end accounts, self-assessment tax return, or corporation tax return, and that those phases and that job can only be completed if TaxCalc confirms that they have been filed within TaxCalc. If the filing hasn't been completed in TaxCalc, the job with an Engager will not be able to be completed, because we've got that barrier in place now that it's double checking that the job has formally been completed. It's not just as saying, yeah, roll it forward, think it's done. It's giving you that extra layer of certainty that it definitely, the job has been done and we're ready for it to roll forward.
And
so,
that's
yeah,
now live.
That is now live, yeah. And quite hidden feature. So if you've not spotted it, I'm not surprised. Yeah, but just good to know that it is in there now, and it's a TaxCalc work item that you're linking it to from Engager, and that's a great one to showcase for that integration moving forward along the roadmap that we're on.
Awesome. So those TaxCalc and Engager users in the chat, have you fully set up the integration? Have you synced the two systems? If there's anyone who hasn't, be interested to know why not, if you've had any problems, and hope or find out how well that went as well. But we have unfortunately run out of time. The power hour is never quite long enough. We have put in a bid to extend the hour to way beyond 60 minutes, but everyone else seems to want to keep it at the 60. So we must move on and give you the rest of your days back. Couple of little notes. We have a new announcement that we are going to be launching from Friday the 20th of February. Free group online training sessions from Nick and his team on TaxCalc tax and accounts. So these will be basic training. So if you've got any new staff or you want to refresh yourself, completely free. We'll be sending out emails over the next week to invite you to take part in those. So thank you for doing that, Nick. It's really good of you. Next up, we are going to be looking at crypto. So TaxCalc TV is going to be going into the virtual currency world. And if you've got any clients who hold crypto assets or you suspect they might, evidence seems to suggest that a lot more clients than you think may well have those crypto assets, and they are going to be under a lot more scrutiny by HMRC and the authorities. And you need to know what is coming down the line at you. So I'm going to drop a link to that. That's on the 4th of March at 2 p.m. You can join us, and I will put a link to that in the chat. So please do come and join us. I'm going to put the last poll live. If anyone who's been watching today is interested in any kind of follow-up, there is a poll live now. So if you want to indicate that you might want to follow up on Engager, practice management tools, on TaxCalc, tax and accounts tools, or both TaxCalc and Engager, just let us know and we can follow up with you down the line. I hope you've had your questions answered. We will be live at FAB, the Festival of Accounting and Bookkeeping, or I think they changed the name, and that's at the NEC on the 11th and 12th of March. So please do come and see us there. I believe we're all there, Esther. I know, Nick, you're there. Esther's going to be there as well. Please come and say hello. And if you have TaxCalc merch, Sarah Solo, come wearing that, because that would be wonderful. We'll take some photos. We have run out of time, but thank you so much. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Esther. Well done for your first Power Hour. May it be the first of many. And we will see you at the next Power Hour coming up at the end of March. All the very best, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.